This Friday, as we look at further thought, we read from the book God with Us, page 19 to 26. Sorry, the chapter God with Us, page 19 to 26 in the book The Desire of Ages by Ellen G. White, and I quote, "The plan for our redemption was not an afterthought, a plan formulated after the fall of Adam. It was a revelation of the mystery which hath been kept in silence through times eternal." That is from Romans 16 verse 25. It was an unfolding of the principles that from eternal ages have been the foundation of God's throne. From the beginning, God and Christ knew of the apostasy of Satan and of the fall of man through the deceptive power of the apostates. God did not ordain that sin should exist, but he foresaw its existence and made provision to meet the terrible emergency. So great was his love for the world that he covenanted to give his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. See Desire of Ages, page 22, to get that quote. Question that we are going to discuss today in our class for tomorrow. 1. If God does not always get what he wants, how does this fact impact the way you think about what occurs in this world? What are the practical implications of understanding that God has unfulfilled desires? Number 2, if we go back to the cake analogy on Thursday's study, we can understand why, even though, I quote, God and Christ knew of the apostate of Satan, end of quote, they went ahead and created us anyway. Love had to be in the mix, and love meant freedom. Rather than not create us as being able to love, God created us so that we could love, but he did so knowing that ultimately it would lead Jesus to the cross. What should it tell us about how sacred, how fundamental love was to God's government that Christ would suffer on the cross rather than to deny us the freedom inherent in love? Number 3, often we lament the evil and the suffering in this world, but how often do you take time to ponder that God himself laments and is grieved by suffering and evil? What difference does it make to your understanding of evil and suffering when you recognize that God himself suffers because of evil? 4, how does this truth that many things happen in this world that God does not will help you deal with your own suffering, especially when it doesn't make sense and seems to lead to no good at all? That's the last question. Remember, our topic for the whole of this week was free will, love, and divine providence. And our key text was from the book of John chapter 16 verse 33, which says, "These things I have spoken unto you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulations, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world." New King James Version. I pray that we prepare adequately for the Sabbath tomorrow and this week's study. It's a beautiful one. So I pray that you may contribute in your lesson discussion classes tomorrow. Please don't just keep quiet. Thank you, and see you for another week's study in lesson 9. Thank you.